for taking the time. We hope you and your families all had a fantastic Easter. We are Space Oddities. We're here to bring the universe to you. And we're a bit thin on the ground tonight, being Easter, as you might imagine. And we've we had intended to devote much of tonight's show on the subject of life on Mars, but our resident planetary scientist Lou is actually in Paris. He's come over from the States, and we haven't seen him yet, and he's doing the presentation. So we hope that he realizes there's an hour's time difference between Paris and the UK. He might not appreciate that being American, because he's on the same time zone as me in Paris, Central European time, and of course you lot are on BST. So there we are. Anyway, we hope you're all well. Thank you for joining us. Just a couple of things before we start. Now, a couple of you have said in the comments, which we greatly appreciate, when we asked you what you would like to see on Space Oddities, you said equipment reviews. Well, of course, that's something that we would like to do in conjunction with our sponsor, Rother Valley Optics. And if you look in the chat on YouTube, there's a poll because we would like to know what sort of equipment reviews you would like us to do. So if you look in the poll, you've got 4 options: small beginners telescopes, larger telescopes, astrophotography equipment, and accessories. So if you would like particularly to see any of those reviewed on Space Oddities, then if you just answer the poll, that would be fantastic, just so we get some idea, because astronomy equipment is a without wishing to sound too pretentious, is a broad church, of course. So we'd like to sort of narrow it down so we can have a chat with our sponsor, Rother Valley Optics, and get some equipment and review it for you. So if you would take part in the poll, if you would like to see equipment reviews, of course, and it'd be grateful if one of the panel could keep an eye on that poll and sort of make a note of the results, because I can't see it from here at the moment, because if I put YouTube on, then I get sound echoes and problems. So there we are. Anyway, it's been an interesting week. We've got a few things interesting coming up this week. Don't forget that at 10 p.m. UK time on on BBC4 tonight, it's the return of The Sky at Night after a bit of absence. So we're looking forward to seeing that tonight. And coincidentally, they are tackling the subject of life in the universe tonight. So they must have got wind we were doing it, because they copy everything that we do on The Sky at Night, obviously. So there's that as well. Now, on Thursday, we have the launch of JUICE, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, being launched by the European Space Agency from the Kourou spaceport in French Guiana. And that's scheduled to happen. The launch window opens at 1:15 p.m. UK time. We will be covering it live up to a point. It depends how long it goes on for before they launch. But we fully intend to cover that live here on Space Oddities on Thursday, beginning at 1:15 p.m. UK time. So we hope you can join us on Thursday, because the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer is an amazing mission. We'll talk about it in a bit more depth on Thursday. But it's going to explore the moons of Jupiter, although it's going to be the end of the decade before it gets there, unfortunately. So we've got that to look forward to on Thursday. Also, SpaceX are getting very close to their first orbital launch with the Starship. And we don't know when it'll be, but it could well be next week. They're talking about the 13th as a possible penciled-in date for that. But a lot still rests on whether they get the launch license from the FAA and a few other things. But we will keep an eye on our Facebook page, and we will, of course, try to bring it to you live as well, depending when it happens. But this could be a momentous space launch. It could be a history-making space launch if they manage to get the Starship, well, basically off without exploding. But if they get to orbit, then all bets are off, and the Starship could be the vehicle that humans will use to explore the solar system, first the moon, and then Mars, and then beyond. So this could be an important launch. So we'll cover that for you live as well. Keep an eye on our Facebook page, where we will keep you up to date with our plans there. Okay. I haven't said hello to the panel because I hate them, but I may as well do it now. Hello to Michael. Thank you for joining us, Michael. Hello to Rachel. Hello to Roger, and hello to Jonathan.
Good evening.
We're hoping that Lou is going to join us, but whoops. But there we are. But he is travelling. Anyway, so we will see. So the first thing we will do, of course, is go over, as we normally do, to the man with his eye in the stars, or whatever you want to say about him. We're going to have a look at the night sky with Roger. So, Roger, what's up this week then?
Oh, well, just a little bit of extra news at the end, but we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Intrigue.
right. So we got the 10th to the 16th of April, and for that we've got the moon getting back towards the new moon with a last quarter on Thursday.
Right.
Yes. And this was the moon yesterday morning at 6:30.
Blimey, Roger, you do get up early for these things.
I know. Well, nature called, so I popped out and saw that it was there, so it was rude not to.
That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Roger, I believe you're going to be doing a series on photographing the moon for us. Is that correct?
Well, people are rather interested in how to get a mineral moon, so I'm going to be going through some of the procedures for that. So watch this space on when that will be happening.
Right, fantastic. Because
Okay.
we would like to help you to take photographs like Roger.
Yes.
He is inimitable, of course, but he will be taken.
I will never be beaten.
You will never be beaten. No, absolutely.
Right. So
activity.
this is what the sun actually looked like when the clouds had parted today. So there are a couple of groups of sunspots appearing back on the surface again. It was looking a bit bare during last week. So they're gradually reappearing, and we'll see how that fares with what else is coming along there. Here's a closer view of those spots. There's quite a lot of little minor spots there, but
there are, aren't there? Amazing.
No doubt when I get my other equipment, I will be able to do a better study of it.
Yeah.
And while I was waiting for the moon to come out the other night, I thought I'd do M106 for an hour.
Oh,
that's only 1 hour's integration. I know it should be more and more and more, but I was a bit. I couldn't be asked to do any more, so I just stopped.
What's the? Do you know what the galaxy in the background is?
No.
Okay, right. I'll just look it up, obviously.
But there are others in there as well. But
there's one off to the right there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A fuzzy one and one below it. About the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic image, Roger.
Right. Okay. So, as we can now see on the screen, that Orion is now heading much more down towards the horizon. But we have got, after sunset, Mercury and Venus in the sky. And on Tuesday, tomorrow, it will be at its greatest eastern elongation.
Oh, really?
So it'll be up quite high to get a really good opportunity, even if you don't have quite a perfectly low horizon. There's still a good chance of you being able to spot it.
Yeah.
So just look for a tiny little bright dot.
Yes.
And you might have a chance at actually spotting the nearest planet to the sun.
And incidentally, it's the planet that all the other planets in the solar system are nearest to. Did you know that?
Right.
No, you didn't. I'll explain that at some point. Yeah.
All right then. Yes. So as we go towards these times I've got on here, all at 9 o'clock. So Leo is right in the southern part of the night sky now. So galaxy season is well and truly amongst us.
And Venus is incredibly prominent here because
absolutely, it does take a few hours to set. So
it does.
Quite a good opportunity. There is. I did try and take a picture of it, but it wasn't that clear. I didn't really have the right gear on the mount at the moment, but it's about an 80% phase roughly.
Yeah.
So but you can't really see too much unless you've got some specialized filters to try and get some detection of the atmosphere and some of the turbulence in the clouds there. And I have seen some quite interesting pictures of that, which some people have got the special ultraviolet Venus filter, as they call it, to get some clarification and contrast of that atmospheric conditions.
Right.
But
Ah,
as
yeah.
you can see, we
Yeah.
have recently had a couple of new publications. This one, obviously, from the James Webb of Uranus, and showing some rather fab rings here.
That is a truly amazing image.
Yes.
And of course, what you have to remember about Uranus is that it's tilted on its side. It's actually an angle of 98 degrees. So the pole of Uranus faces the sun directly, which is really weird. And it's thought that billions of years ago, Uranus was smacked by another object in the solar system, not once but twice, which turned it over onto its side. So it sort of rolls around the sun rather than sort of orbits like the other planets do. And as you say, the rings there are absolutely fascinating. And the clouds
Absolutely.
as well. I mean, those clouds are incredibly bright in infrared, aren't they? Yeah, that's a lovely image.
And here we've got some of the moons that are orbiting round as well. I've not put the one up which has got the names of the actual planets, the moons on there, but there's certainly 5 there which have all got little sort of star spikes and a blue haze around them. So that's what we've got there. But not only, but also we have got this.
Ah, yes, the supernova remnant.
Yes, and that's roughly 11,000 light years away and about 24 light years across. And as a matter of, even though it's only just been published in the last few days, this was taken on the 4th of August last year. So it shows you how much they've got held back for presenting.
Well, it's that, and of course, a lot of the James Webb data is proprietary data that they have an agreement to release after a certain amount of time.
Yes.
Because it's most of the science is being done by universities, and they want their own scientists to have pics of the images and to write papers before anybody else does. But yeah, you're right. I'm sure they've got a huge backlog. If that was August last year.
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to see more TRAPPIST data.
Yeah, well, all in good time.
Yeah, all in good time.
That'll probably be another year, I should think, before you get more interesting research published for that, I would have thought.
Well, they're saying before the end of the year now. So,
right. Okay.
So they're saying the full data set should be released by the end of the year. Because we already know that 2 of the planets don't look like they're capable of supporting life. One of them doesn't appear to have an atmosphere at all. But I think it's TRAPPIST H, if I remember rightly, it's either G or H, the one that everybody's really interested in, that they're hopeful for being most likely Earth, and it's in the habitable zone, so it's more likely to support life. We will see. We will see. Yeah.
And that is what I have for this evening.
Thank you, Roger. That's absolutely marvellous. So there we are. Nice guy from Roger. And what we're going to do in a break with tradition, we're going to move straight over to the lovely Rachel and this week's viewers gallery. Do we have that?
Oh dear.
Are you trying to break up the place, Jonathan?
Hey.
We've got Frank Spencer on tonight.
Again, I think.
There's a very loud noise coming from your.
Oh, was there? I do apologise. Lots of loud noises coming from my department.
There's a conspiracy because I'm never on this early. He's trying to throw me off.
Go on, Rach, you can do it. Go on.
All right then. So here we are.
So challenge accepted. If I manage to teach maths to a bunch of 33 screaming kids, I'm sure I can handle Jonathan's noise as well. So we've got a different mix, I think, today in the gallery. I know I say that every week. but we've got one from Michael tonight.
Oh, Michael, fantastic.
He's sent in his Venus and Mercury, which she says can be seen just above the neighbour's roof, which he's took on his iPhone using the Nightcap app and studied on the windowsill, and then he's edited it slightly on Photoshop.
There you are. That bright point adjacent to the roof is indeed the planet Mercury, nearest planet to the sun. And it does just look like a star. If you've never seen Mercury, at least it's worth having a try to say you've actually done it. And there it is. There's Mercury. Well done, Michael. That's a good photo.
Yeah, really nice. Then we have one from Jerry. He sent us in the Cave Nebula in Cepheus, which is a really nice area. On his usual setup, but using the extreme filter. I'm not sure if he always uses the extreme filter. I can't remember now. But here it is.
Wow. That's beautiful. What colours? It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
All that starlight going on behind that little cloud there. Beautiful.
Yeah.
You say a little cloud. It's
It's
light
tiny,
years
tiny
in
cloud.
diameter. Yeah, light years across.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice picture. Well done, Jerry.
Yeah, well done, Jerry. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sending that in.
Then we've got another one by Jerry. So he's gone for the Leo trip, which is obviously known as Hamburger Galaxy M65 and M66. And he's been using the L Pro Optilong filter for this one. And it is a really nice target, this one. I just love.
Ooh.
And I just saw that it was 4 times 3 minutes, which is quite amazing, really.
Yeah, it's not a long time, really, to capture that much detail.
Well done, Jerry. That's fantastic.
I do love the hamburger, though. I think it's such a... it's just such a nice target. So, really, really nice. And good to see we've got some galaxies creeping in now.
Beautiful.
Then this is by Jonathan, and the reason there's no information is because we actually don't really know what we're doing.
Right.
It's the sun.
Is that what it is?
And it's the best 30% of 200 frames. But if I show you sort of what we're using, you might understand why. Obviously, we're part of a society, so we are the dome managers, so we sort of have free reign of all the gear. So since the sun's been out and we've been off work, he's decided to have a go at this Frankenscope contraption. And we're not entirely sure what any of it is. We don't really know. But it's used to take pictures of the sun. So this is what we were using.
Break it anyway.
And I know we also had Kevin over, so obviously the resident solar man was there on hand to help, and even he was kind of like, let's just see what happens.
Right. How on earth did you get that balance? Is it like a metre off the back of the telescope?
We're still not entirely sure what this is. This thing was called the oven. I'm not entirely sure what we're cooking in it, but it was all a bit of a contraption. But this was the picture we got in the end.
Hey.
Wow.
Which, obviously, we've never had a go at the sun before. We're sort of nebula people, but Johnny's creeping to the dark or light side. So yeah. So I thought I would stick it in since we're new, and it's nice to show something different.
Absolutely.
So there is the sun. Then we've got one from Lee. So Lee's been turning his eye to the planets. He's done Venus from Cornwall. And he said there's not enough of planetary imaging love for Venus. But as Banama Rama said, back in the day when music was music, she's got it.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's beautiful.
So I mean, yeah, I've never ever even tried to do Venus, so lots of respect for anybody that can do planetary.
I did Venus once, but it was quite a small image. But I did get it, and you could see the phase very clearly. I might try again.
Of course, Dave Eagle was quite good at doing Venus. He got it right up to a few days before it was.
Yeah, he gets the really nice phases,
so
doesn't
he?
he?
All the phases, pretty much.
And then we've got Lee again, and this one's really lovely. Just a wide field of the planets. So he's got Venus and Mercury in this shot. Again in Cornwall, just a smartphone on a tripod. I think he seems to say he got scared by a couple of dog walkers as he popped up from behind a hedge. But just the sun and everything in this is just...
Oh, I see Mercury. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
And Venus is Mercury, sorry, is just
Yeah.
on sort of the first third of the image. So
Well
really
done, Lee.
nicely.
Another winner, sir. Fantastic.
And then I had to put this one in because it was dedicated to me. And this is a moody pic for my birthday yesterday from Andy. So he says he's been reflecting on the moon, home to the clangers and all sorts of our cheese. So he thought he'd have a go at a mineral moon. And here it is.
That is a very good mineral moon. Roger, what do you think?
Yes, I did say to Andy when he posted it, I did compliment him on that picture. Yes,
It's very, very nice.
Have we got what's the sort of the my color vision is not brilliant, but it looks brown to me. The areas just
that's the iron
that's iron.
elements of the minerals there.
Right, and we've got titanium there as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And anything else there you can see, Roger?
Not at the moment.
No. Is that brown or is it red? Tell me. I need to know.
It's more of a browny colour.
I'd say it's like a coppery
brown.
Yeah, I mean that was why my school told me that I could never be an astronomer because I'm red-green colorblind.
Right.
And there was also the slight matter that my maths is crap as well. So I think that was probably more important. But then I wanted to be a pilot, and they said, no, you can't be a pilot with red-green colorblindness. So I mean, I know what red and green look like. It's just when I get certain shades of them together in the same place, I can't tell them apart. But it also affects any colours with reds in like purples. Anyway, I'm rambling. That's a lovely image.
It is lovely.
Well done.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for the dedication.
Yeah.
And that is what we are finishing on this week. Thank you. Another year older.
Right, it's fantastic.
But not wiser.
Okay. How are we doing in the poll on YouTube? Is anybody answering it? Somebody tell me.
Where's it gone?
It should be right at the top.
Come on, Rog.
I can't see it on my phone. I can't see it on my phone.
I'm at the top and it's not actually showing me it.
Is it not? It should be at the top of the chat window.
Starts with Heidi.
That's weird. I saw it on my monitor. Okay, let's do one thing then. Let's do it manually. So if you would like to see, dear viewers, us do equipment reviews on Space Oddities, what type of equipment would you like to see us doing reviews of? And we'll have a word with our sponsor, Rother Valley Optics, and see what we can sort out. So if you can write in the comments, just what sort of equipment you'd like to see reviewed. Generally, not, want to see the, Fred 123 camera reviewed or things like that, but just in general terms, do you want to see small telescopes, large telescopes, astrophotography equipment, accessories? So Astronebula says joint between startoscope and astrophotography. There we are. Thank you very much. Any other comments that you want to tell us about? Anything else you would like to see reviews? Derek says accessories. Fair enough, Derek. Thank you for that. And small beginners. Well, right. Okay. Thank you, Anthony, for doing that. You see, it is there. I told you it was there. He's copied and pasted it, so I don't know why it's not showing up for you. Right. Daz said astro equipment 33%, small telescope 33%, which makes 66. But maths was never Daz's strong point. So is there anything else, Daz, that you want to see? So there we are. Anything else that you can think of that you would like to see reviews? Because as I said earlier, astrophotography is one thing, but it's a big umbrella, astronomy equipment. So if there's any type of equipment you'd like to see reviewed, we'll see what we can do. We'll be happy to oblige you if we can. So there we are. Okay, I had a message from Lou. He said he'll be a bit late because he's on the metro going into Paris. So let's hope that he makes it, of course. In the meantime, why don't we just start off the discussion with a bit of a preamble? So first of all, let's ask the viewers, do you think that we will find life either past or present elsewhere in the solar system? Let's see what our viewers think, first of all, before we go any further. The answer basically is yes or no. And what do you think about the possibility of life in the solar system? Put that in the comments if you would. And panel, what do you think? Let's go around. Rachel, what do you think about the possibility of life elsewhere in the solar system?
I don't think there has to be. I mean, I don't know what life depends on what we're defining as life, but something, an organism that's doing its own thing. I think there has to be. I think we'd be really narrow-minded to think we were it. I think it'd be really scary if we were it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's scary to think there's things out there that we don't know, but is it not scary to think we're completely alone and this is it? There is nothing else. That sounds more bleak and terrifying to me. But yeah, I think there's got to be.
I agree with you. But I think, well, anyway, let's go around first. Roger, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking along the lines of what lies in the icy moons underneath the surface there. I'm sure that there could be a mixture of some very simple cellular life, if they're anything like we see down in the dark, deep oceans of Earth, where they're near lava outflows for heating the area where they can maybe form, and maybe algae might be there, but I think there could be something there, but it's certainly a very minor form of life, simple cell stuff, I would have thought at the moment, but it would be nice to be able to get that evidence.
Yes, some nice comments coming in. Like Graham's comment that says it's depressing if humans are as smart as an entire universe can manage, which is very true. We've got various suggestions. Enceladus, and Daz says if we are alone, it's an awful waste of space, which it is, of course. And what else have we got going on here? Yes, so I think most of you are saying yes, but as Steve pointed out, that perhaps it's not an inevitability, but just because we may not find life in our solar system does not mean that there's not life further afield in the universe, of course. Jonathan, what do you think?
Yeah, I would have thought the smart money would definitely go on Mars, at least finding some past example of life that did live on Mars. But it would be nice to think that all the things that we exclude in the solar system as possibly having no life at all were to turn up life. We seem to be very good at perhaps ruling things out that aren't going to show any signs of life or any signs of past life. So I think it's a case of not ruling anything out until it's absolutely certain that it cannot exist there. But the smart money must go on Mars for a former past existence of something. And of course, the icy moons, as we discussed. But it's also exactly what sort of life it's going to be. And I think we're going to be massively disappointed. But if we do, and regardless of what sort of life it is, I think it'll be a huge eye opener, and it'll sort of make us reevaluate a lot of things that we've thought about our solar system, and give us a massive insight into the past and the formation of the solar system. And so the smart money has to be on Mars. I'd be very surprised if the samples that are returned back don't yield anything whatsoever. It has to be there, but there was talk of Venus, of course, and some. But what we're talking about, sort of a chemical level, sort of amoeba level, and whatever life, yes. But I think we just got to be so open-minded as to not rule everything out, and to make sure that we're, the suspect in the room, which is of course Mars, might not necessarily be the one that turns up what we expect.
Absolutely, and of course. Okay, just had, excuse me to interrupt you there, Jonathan. We just had a message saying that Lou got on the wrong metro. He can't join us. Okay, so we'll wait and see whether he makes it before the end of the show. Wrong metro. That's probably the best excuse I've heard for not turning up for Space Oddities so far.
Can I just add something, Andy, about life?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm thinking back to the Viking probes on Mars.
Hmm.
They were sent with the explicit mission of finding life, and everything came back inconclusive. I think that's a good get-out clause to say they probably did find something, but they're not, ready to say so yet, sort of thing.
Well, if they're not ready after 50 years,
That's right.
and it probably never will be.
And it has been 50 years since Viking.
Yes, just about. Yeah,
Almost, yeah.
Years. Yeah, 47 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is about the Viking results that there was nothing in them. There was something in the Viking result, but there was nothing that couldn't be mimicked by normal chemical processes that we know about. So that I think is why it was inconclusive. It could be life, but it could be just normal chemical processes. And because we don't know, or we didn't then, about the chemistry of what goes on in the Martian soil, they couldn't turn around and say, yes, this is life. But in a more general sense, what do you think about the idea that if we do find life in the solar system, that means that life has risen twice in the same star system. Therefore, life must be everywhere in the universe.
Definitely,
unless we take a rather silly idea that the solar system is in any way special or different. I mean, we know it is. We know that the arrangement of the planets in the solar system is unusual because we haven't seen that anywhere else. But in terms of life arising in the same place twice, it must surely mean that there is life everywhere in the universe. That must be it. Although somebody did say, that the sort of the typical form of life in the universe is probably only microbes, green slime or something like that. Perhaps intelligent life, or shall we say, more advanced life, is a little more rare. What do you think?
There's not going to be a federation of planets then. Yeah.
Not in our lifetime. Definitely.
It does beg the question though about you talked about there, Michael, about the Viking possible discoveries. Is that what right do they have to actually withhold that sort of information? They always come up with this. Oh, we don't think we're ready to actually accept that part of the population itself isn't ready to deal with that sort of knowledge. I think we're more than capable of dealing with that sort of knowledge, and it's almost like they're playing God, if you like, by saying, well, we'll only release it when we're absolutely sure. If they're absolutely 100% sure that it is what it is, just release the information. People will have to deal with it any which way it comes. So
and if we do find it, will it be a profound mark on us? Like will there be general uprising and so forth, saying there's life on everywhere else? Will there be problems in that area? Maybe I don't know.
Exactly, but is it for them to judge how sort of reaction? Well, we're all going to react differently to it. There's no question about that. But at what point would you ever deem it where you could say, well, we'll release it anyway? You have to overcome that and say, well, nobody's going to accept it on level playing field.
Yeah, and talking of Viking, I'd like to mention the late great Carl Sagan. It was his baby, wasn't it? Viking, so he was the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah. So. Graham's asked made an interesting point. Finding life elsewhere in the solar system could have quite an effect on the inputs into the Drake equation. Just for those who don't know, the Drake equation invented by scientist Frank Drake is basically a formula where you plug in lots of variables and it tells you the likelihood of other civilizations or life generally in the universe. And I think even if you plug in the worst case scenario into the Drake equation, the Drake equation says that in our galaxy there could be 100,000 other civilizations. So I don't know. You're right, Graham. I mean, I think it must have some impact because you are raising the number of habitable planets with life in one star system from 1 to 2. So you're doubling it. So that must have an effect on it. Yeah, and Daz says, which may well be true, we are the neighbours nobody wants to live next to.
Yeah.
So there we are. So narrowing it down then to Mars, viewers, what do you think about specifically the idea of life on Mars, and whether that's we know there's no advanced life on Mars. I think that's fairly clear. So any evidence of life we find is going to be, if you like, low-level microbial. So what do our viewers think? Put in the comments if you think there's life either past or present on Mars, and let's see what everybody thinks about Mars, because that's predominantly what we're going to talk about. If Lou does not make it, if he doesn't manage to get on the right metro in Paris, then we'll hold his presentation over to next week, and we can further discuss this next week. Steve says, I think the Drake equation only addresses astronomical factors, not chemical. Yes, that's true. That's true. It's very true, Steve. But if you did change or input the fact that there are 2 planets in the same star system with life, then that would change things, I think. Ian says ancient microbes on Mars, perhaps. Kevin says perhaps 50-50. There was a paper that came out of, I think, how long ago? 8 years ago, I think it was, by an American scientist who says that the Curiosity rover had found evidence of ancient microbial mats on Mars. I don't know whether you remember that, but these look very much like the microbial mats that existed on the primitive Earth, if you like, the sort of the lowest forms of life that originated on Earth. And I found last night a PDF written by a group of scientists, 200 photographs showing proof that there's life on Mars. And they've taken loads of images of Mars taken by various rovers and spacecraft and compared them to the same features on Earth. And it's very interesting. Perhaps we can talk about that next week as well. But I would say that just because something looks like an earthly analog doesn't mean that it is, of course, because we are very good at fooling ourselves into finding things that are familiar when in fact they're completely different. So there we are. Astro Nebulae says there would have been life on Mars at some point many moons ago, probably just microbes. Yeah, I think I would agree with you, Astro. Yeah. So Steve says, yeah, absolutely. The prokaryotes are probably might well be the highest form of life. What do you think about the Martian methane anomaly, guys? What, do you think there's anything going on there? No.
No. No.
That's a no. Okay. Okay. So, but you know, it cannot be denied that something on Mars is releasing methane from below the surface on a seasonal schedule, if you like. And this has been detected from orbit and on the ground by, I think, Curiosity. Suddenly found itself in the middle of a release of methane on Mars. And of course, methane is a byproduct of biological processes. It can also be a byproduct of volcanic processes, but as far as we know, that's not going on Mars. So this mystery has yet to be solved. But the methane is being released at various points on Mars in strong enough quantities to be detected from orbit, and it's seasonal as well. So you know, that is really interesting. I don't think anything recent has been discovered about it, but it is a mystery. So something on Mars is releasing methane, and if you discount if you discount volcanic processes or tectonic processes, then you know, then life is a distinct possibility.
Is it during a certain season of these Martian year?
Yes, it is. It is. I think it's in the Martian spring, if I remember rightly. Don't quote me on that, though. I think it's in the Martian spring. that you get these outgassing of methane, not just in one place, but apparently in several places on the surface. So that is intriguing.
Nothing to do with melting ice or anything then?
Well, possibly, but
a link there through the underground systems, maybe.
Yeah. So yes, but nobody has actually come up with an answer to this yet, and it remains a mystery. So we need to get humans on the ground. That's what we need. We need to get boots on the ground to
with a shovel. Yeah.
With a shovel. Yeah. And a bucket. Yeah. And Hilton's Family Travel says the tardigrades of Mars. It could be really resilient organisms on Mars. But the Martian methane remains a mystery, and nobody's actually come up. And Steve says, "Yep, seasonal methane is mysterious. Nobody knows what's going on there."
Talking of boots on the ground, do you think SpaceX will get there first?
Yes.
Got it, isn't it?
But I don't know. I don't. I mean, Elon Musk says that he wants to launch 1,000 starships to Mars, not in the next conjunction, in 2 years, but eventually launching 1,000 starships to Mars. This is why they just built this huge starship factory to ramp up production.
Yeah.
And eventually they hope to create one starship a week. So who knows? Who knows? So Daz says quite rightly, microbial mats exist in lakes here on Earth, devoid of oxygen, and where arsenic has replaced oxygen in photosynthesis. Very true. This brings us to another good question, of course, is if we did find life on Mars, would we recognize it? What would it look like? We've only got one example to go by. This is the whole problem in searching for life, that we can have our own definition of what life is and what it looks like.
Exactly.
But is it? Yeah. It's true. And
would we recognize intelligent life?
Well, we have difficulty enough doing that on the Earth, so why would we be able to do it on Mars?
Yes.
If you look at the requirements for life, if you look at, we think that all life needs water as a solvent, and you can't conceive of life that could exist without that. It has to have energy. It has to be self-replicating, and if you take all those into account, then you also need something like DNA to store genetic information so that it can reproduce, DNA or RNA. And because of that, people think, well, we'd probably recognize it then, but would we? What do you think, Jonathan? Do you think that it's a bit of a thorny issue?
I would have thought that, it's one of these things that living by the standards, or having standards of what we would appreciate to be a life form, and I think, like I said previously, is if we discount absolutely everything, or think that the definition has to sort of fit a certain format, then I think we're narrowing the band of the actual search for life. So I think you've got to go across a massive spectrum and rule absolutely nothing out. Again, with Mars, I've just been pondering what you've talked about, the sort of the methane outburst, outgassing, and I am really surprised that there hasn't been more extensive research carried out in order to, and we get to this situation where we say, well, experts aren't really sure what it is, but you would have thought that is a definite sign of activity on the Martian surface, of which there is none virtually beside that. And you thought, that's certainly got to be a target of some sort of mission to find it, or some sort of program to actually get to the root of this, because really any sign of activity anywhere is a sign that there could be something else dovetailing with that to make it something a little bit more intense. So I am surprised that it goes so far without giving a sort of a decent explanation as to what it is, or in fact saying, well, I think it's about time we found out about that, because so much of it is barren and we don't think that nothing else has happened there. So really, you would have thought that would have been a target for a lot of research.
I agree with you. And I mean, I think it's I don't know how these things work, and obviously I'm not privy to what they talk about at these meetings. But I would have thought that would have been a much bigger target for funding than perhaps launching spacecraft to check on the existence of Venusian phosphine, for example. The evidence for which is tenuous at best, but there's definitely seasonal outgassing of methane on Mars, and I think the problem is that it's being detected by space probes. Curiosity rover found itself in the middle of one of these Martian emissions, but doesn't have the capability of digging below the ground, so it wasn't much use really. This is what I said. We need people there. We need geologists. We need astrobiologists there to go and investigate this. Without doing that, I think it will remain a mystery. To be quite honest.
You just thought it would be an obvious target, wouldn't you? Any activity like that, an obvious target to go and find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and the whole subject has gone a bit quiet, to be honest with you, because it was being talked about a lot 2 or 3 years ago, but there's been virtually nothing in the media about it since. So I don't know. One of those things, I guess. Okay. Well, anyway, just before we go on, I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for buying us coffees last week. Much appreciated, and we do really appreciate it, don't we, guys?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look at them all. Look at their caffeine-inflated eyes. My pretty trader, that's not coffee. You've got to drink the coffee they buy for us. That's a bit rude. So anyway, if you would like to buy us a coffee, then scan the QR code, and the price of your coffees helps us to keep Space Oddities going. And we thank you very, very much for your support. So looking at it, let's move away from Mars now. Let's talk about the solar system's water worlds, the icy moons, and because they are both, of course. So we know that a lot of the moons have got these underground oceans. In the case of Europa, containing double the amount of water than all the oceans on Earth put together. We know that. In the case of Europa, and definitely Enceladus, these oceans are warm. They've got energy sources. In the case of Enceladus, we're pretty sure there are analogues of black smokers on the floor of the ocean, volcanic vents, if you like the ones along the mid-Atlantic ridge on Earth. And so we've got warm water. We've got an energy source. Is there life? Is it possible? And again, same question, would we know it if we saw it? The answer, unfortunately, is that we won't know until we dig down beneath the ice to actually have a look. Although we may not need to in the case of Europa, because the Hubble Space Telescope detected venting from Europa, venting ice and water vapor and gas into the atmosphere, which falls back onto the surface of Europa. So we may not actually have to dig down the ice, because we've got water from beneath the ice being deposited, frozen, of course, because it's incredibly cold on the surface. So what do we think about the Europa and Enceladus? And audience, I don't know whether you answered that one earlier. Anybody think there's life on Europa? What are the possibilities on Enceladus, on Ganymede, on Ceres, all of the places where we think Triton as well is another one, all suspected, even Pluto, of having an underground ocean, even Titan. So, the moons of the solar system are not what we thought they were. A lot of them have, or thought to have, these underground oceans, and some of them are warm, some of them are salty, like Europa, and there could be life there. So anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think Europa's the best bet out of all of them.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. Enceladus, of course, is a lot further out, but then again, the ice is not thought to be nearly as thick on Enceladus, so it's easier to get to that ocean. And can you imagine somebody spelunking down through the tiger stripes on Enceladus? The crust.
If it was with Europa, how far does the Jupiter's radiation field extend?
Yes, well, that's another thing. So Jupiter's radiation is a problem.
Yeah.
Then, if life has evolved underground, then, not a problem. So there we are. Ian says they could be non-carbon life based out there. The only problem with that, Ian, is that if you look through the periodic table, there are only 2 elements in the periodic table that could form the basis for life, and they are carbon and silicon. And silicon doesn't cut the mustard because it cannot manifest itself in a sufficient number of forms. Carbon can take an amazing variety of forms and perform all the functions needed for life. Silicon can't. So I think scientists think that silicon is a bit of a non-starter. As far as astrobiologists can make out, the only element in the periodic table that is versatile enough to form a range of compounds that are necessary for life is carbon. So the idea of non-carbon based life, it was quite popular, years and years ago. People talked about silicon-based life or this based life or this based life. But in actual fact, astrobiologists think that carbon is the only base you could actually form life out of. So thank you for that comment, Ian. And what else have we got here? Just going down through the comments. Ian again says it would be cool if there were fish on Europa and Enceladus. Unlikely, but yeah, I totally agree with you. That would be amazing. Some sort of if you've not seen the film Europa Report, which came out in 2013, that's a film about humans' first crewed voyage to the surface of Europa. That's a wonderful film. Quite small budget, but beautifully done. So check out Europa Report. It's a wonderful movie. And Astronebula says, yes, Enceladus probably got some form of life somehow. And there we are. Panel, any final thoughts before we wrap the conversation up for this week? Anyway,
I personally think, and you can chalk this one down, Andy, for future reference when people are looking back on this in years to come. I think a concerted effort to try and find life probably won't reveal it. It'll be quite by accident that we stumble across it. I think it's going to be one of those occasions where we already perhaps possess the evidence, and it hasn't yet been sort of sifted through the reams and masses of data that we got. I think either A, it's already been discovered, and the fact is the data that we have, we just haven't sifted through it enough to actually finalize it, or it'll be found quite by accident and not with a targeted mission to find it. I think that's the way it's going to be found, actually.
You could well be right. Roger, any final thoughts?
No.
No? Okay. Short and sweet, thank you. Michael?
They could already be here.
Oh, yeah.
There we are. Don't start that one off, please.
My
we
neighbour's
attract
very
a lot of
suspect.
people, Michael. So there we are. Okay, now, Jonathan.
Hello, good evening.
We are going to return to this subject next week when Lou manages to get on the right metro. And Lou's got a really interesting presentation about life in the solar system. Lou, a resident NASA planetary scientist. Lou has been a planetary scientist for a long time. And he knows what he's talking about, does Lou? So that's not to say that the rest of you don't, of course. But Lou will give you a presentation next week, a planetary scientist's view of life in the solar system. And it's a great presentation. And also... we've also got something to announce. Steve Warbis is giving a talk tomorrow, and just give me a second and I will read you the details. Just talk amongst yourselves for a moment. And Steve's presentation. It's tomorrow at the Bridges Centre in Monmouth in Wales, starting at 2:30 p.m. And it's well recommended. The subject is Our Place in the Universe, How Lucky Do You Feel Today? Our very own Steve Warbis, who is a space oddity, although we haven't seen him recently. But he's one of us, he's on the panel, and he will be giving this talk about Our Place in the Universe tomorrow at the Bridges Centre in Monmouth in Wales, starting at 2:30 p.m. if you can make it, and I'm sure he'd appreciate your support. And if you do go, have a lovely time. So, Jonathan, what have we got lined up this week in terms of NeoWatch? What's out there?
Okie dokie. Here we go. Before I go to that, though, it was nice. A fortnight ago, we had a substantial gathering here in the South Wales Valleys. We had Bridgend Astronomical Society, the heads of the Valleys Astronomical Society, Bridgend, Ask Abergavenny, and also Fins over Gwent were there with a lovely display of rockets as well, and the inflatable planetarium they put up. So it was nice to get all together across the region, have a substantial meeting. It all went down very well attended, and plenty of things to, plenty of talks going on. Marty Griffiths from Bridgend, who he gave a talk there. So it was lovely for all societies to get together. I think Cardiff were there as well, to get together in one place to have a powwow. Yeah, very nice indeed. And also something that just sprung to mind when we talk about shovels is the fact that I was opposite a shop the other day, and I became very interested in the array of brushes that they had, yard brushes. It must be sort of a thing you get to at a certain age of life. I don't know, but I was very tempted to buy a brush for no apparent reason. Anyway, so
right. Okay. This is Jonathan Daft as a Brush Powell.
But there you are. They did look very tempting in this dustbin that the guy had outside his shop. Anyway, let's start with now. More than 250 near-Earth objects were discovered in March of this year, and just for clarification too on the Close Approach Index, this is compiled by NASA. I thought it'd be nice to talk about that. As I say, 250 near-Earth objects discovered in March. Now, the index takes into account the object's size and the distance of the asteroid's approach to Earth. And approaches are classified into 5 categories. Very rare, occurring typically once per decade. And you've got rare, that's every few years. Infrequent, that's roughly once every few months. Frequent is once every few weeks, and very frequent, more than once per week, of which I don't know of any actually that actually do that. And if they are out there, we haven't really sort of tracked them down and keeping a good eye on them at the moment. But a very recent case, I think I mentioned it a week or so ago, 2023 DZ2, initially classified as a rare event, but has since been downgraded to infrequent after a refinement in the estimation of its size. And DZ2 also reached a Torino scale rating of 1. Of course, it's 1 to 10. Just a few days after its discovery, that they were talking about a possible impact in 2026. But subsequent observations with regards to its passing now means that it's been removed from all possible collisions. So that's the end of that.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a holiday wiped out, isn't it? Now, the most noticeable close approach asteroid that's going to take place during April is a little fellow, although to be diverse, it could be either which way. It's 2006 HV5. She's it's a 300-meter diameter asteroid. Coming to about 6 lunar distances on April the 26th. Now, 2006 HV5 is one of the A10 asteroids named after 2062 A10, which measures around 900 meters in diameter, discovered back on January the 7th, 1976. As of 2023, there's 2,445 A10s have been discovered, of which 256 are numbered, 13 are named, and 101 are classified as potentially hazardous asteroids. And these A10s, they are Earth crossers with a semi-major axis smaller than Earth's. Apollos, the classification, the main classification, are Earth crossers as well, with semi-major axis larger than Earth's. And the semi-major axis refers to the asteroid's average orbital distance from the Sun. Right. Another interesting point I picked up on. This is to do with NASA. They've commissioned or given the go-ahead with regards to funding. It's 6 early-stage space technology ideas have gained funding from NASA. It's a project they've called the NASA Innovative Advanced Concepts, NIAC program. Right. And one of them is planetary defense. They seek to defend the planet from asteroids and other potential impactors. And whereas the leading method of planetary defense is momentum transferred, in other words, what DART tried to use last September, The
Yeah.
new project is investigating another method. It's pulverizing the impactor into small pieces that would burn up in Earth's atmosphere, virtually rendering it non-threat, virtually taking the threat away. It plans, and this is probably our quote of the week, everybody, quote of the week. It plans to do this with an array of small hypervelocity kinetic penetrators. So you can have that, if you like, of your breakfast tomorrow morning. An array of small hypervelocity kinetic penetrators. Also, interestingly enough, these 6 early stage space technology ideas, of which NASA are throwing a fair bit of punch at, they must have been said. Another project that's caught my eye is FarView. It's a proposed low-frequency radio telescope array that will be built on the far side of the moon. As to the fruition of any of these projects, the planetary defense one was sort of being branded as sort of a real science fiction job, but not impossible. But it just goes to show that it's nice that they are putting money into certain other aspects that might yield results rather than just relying on the sort of DART method. But I do like the idea of this low-frequency radio telescope array on the far side of the moon and the other projects that go with it. It's nice to see they're actually backing these sort of things, just to give it an absolute spread of possibilities to deal with things, not heavily reliant on one particular method. So that's that. The ESA near-Earth object figures. Okay, this is how they stand, courtesy, of course, of the European Space Agency. The total number of near-Earth asteroids as it stands 1 day ago, because I haven't looked at it this evening, but I doubt it's changed much. It's 31,632, of which 1,463 are on the risk list. The current near-Earth comets, that's been stable for quite a while now, 120. And current known asteroids with good orbital information, that stands at 1,167,326. And the current number of near-Earth objects discovered since the start of this year is now standing at 586 newly discovered. Like we said, look at that information there. We got over 1 million of them with good plotted in orbital information. So we've got a lot within our scope, but there's an awful lot still not within it, I suppose. But the same token, you go back a decade and we would just not have this sort of information to hand. So it's all part of a massive data bank that we can pool on by plotting these things as they go. So we've become heavily reliant on this, but it just goes to show how much is out there, but also how much still hasn't been discovered or properly tracked as well.
Yeah,
and that's a bit from the Neo desk.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Great. Just to pick up on that thing about using the high energy kinetic impactors.
Yes,
basically to pulverize.
Yes,
asteroid.
It's driving a sequence of rods, if you like, into the asteroid itself, which would then explode and obliterate the asteroid itself. And it's not a new idea by any means. I mean, a couple of other ones on the list, and it is like Trigger's brush, 20 new heads and 58 new handles. Is the tractor one where they propose to actually drag the asteroid off course by a method of pulling it. Actually called, I think, a space tractor, I believe, will actually pull it out of harm's way. This one I've read about this about 2 years ago. These kinetics. So
I've read of that before. That isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm glad to see that actually NASA put their money where their mouth is on this one, because of the ones that I read about, this did have some potential to actually smash it to smithereens and actually let them burn up naturally, or at least the majority of which to burn up naturally. I don't think we can rely on the DART was a success, no question about that, but it's the time from discovery to the time to act that is the difficulty. That's the problem. We need to have a defense system already in place, and anything that advances that is fantastic. And I really am surprised, because I mean it's game over, isn't it? It's like if that's the way it is, if we are, it's game over. So really, let's
Yeah, your audio is breaking up, Jonathan, for some reason. Yeah. And also, of course, we'll need to employ, a range of different methods depending on the composition of the asteroid, because there's no one solution that would deal with all of them. Okay, Jonathan's breaking up, so to speak.
He's been impacted.
He's been impacted. So there we are. Thank you so much for that, Jonathan. And just a final thing, in case you want to buy us a coffee, then I'll just put this up one final time this evening. We would like to say thank you to all of our viewers for taking part in the discussion tonight. Thank you all for your comments, much appreciated. We will carry on with this, providing Lou can manage to find his way out of the Paris Metro. We will be carrying on with this conversation next week. And Lou, as I said, our resident planetary scientist, will be telling us about life in the solar system and the possibilities of it. We hope to be returning on Thursday at starting about 1:15 UK time for the launch of JUICE, the Jupiter Icy Moons mission Explorer, which is launching from French Guiana on Thursday. Very important mission for what we've just been talking about, planetary science and the hunt for life. So do join us on Thursday. Keep your eye on the Facebook page and also on YouTube, because I will be creating a live stream for Thursday before the event. And we hope to have you as viewers, if you could make it. I know it's in the middle of the day, you're probably working, but if we could have you as viewers to share the launch of JUICE with us, that would be fantastic. And we're looking forward to that greatly, because it's been a long time coming. So let's get JUICE on its way to Jupiter and wish it well. Okay, well, listen, thank you so much for watching us tonight. We do appreciate having you as viewers. We have noted your comments about what sort of astro equipment you would like to see reviews of, and I think it's coming down firmly on the side of astrophotography, looking at the number of responses that we've had. Toss up between astrophotography, small telescopes and accessories, but I think the majority of you wanted to see reviews of astrophotography equipment. So we will try and sort that out as soon as we possibly can. So bear with us. All right, then, we'd like to wish you and your families a very peaceful week. We hope to see you back here same time next week. So from all of us on Space Oddities, have a fantastic week. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week. Say goodbye, panel.
Goodbye, panel.
Bye, panel.
Bye, panel. Bye-bye, all.
Get
Take
your
care.
yard brush.